Welcome to the Business Chamber, brought to you in association with Ennis Chamber of Commerce, hosted by Joe Melody.
I suppose, ladies, an overview would be nice of like how you've got to where you are, us sitting here in a bricks and mortar cafe / retail on the main street in Lahinch. I know you started as a wellness brand that was mainly focused around events, and there was retail element in that. Mm-hmm. But I suppose the big piece here is the two of you are sitting together. Aoibhín, I know you're from Dublin. Sharon from Clare. How did the two coming together of two creative minds happen? Really, I suppose the main thing I'd start with.
Yeah, we are. It's a big question. First of all, thanks so much for having us,
and for the lovely introduction.
Yeah,
really lovely.
And congratulations on the new pod, Joe. We began this journey 8 years ago.
8 years, yeah, somewhere this July.
Yeah, and if you had asked us that question, I suppose 8 years ago, what is BEO, we might have had a very different answer to what we now have. But I suppose the core of BEO hasn't changed. Mm-hmm. We've pivoted, we've diversified, we've expanded, we've grown maybe in that space of time. But I think the ethos of BEO, the message of BEO, and the feeling of BEO has always remained the same. And that is, I suppose, shared experience, getting people together, and creating something where people come away feeling seen, feeling heard, feeling empowered. And that's something that I hope people get when they come into this space. This is a unit actually that we took on a couple of years ago, and it became a community space straight away. We held events here in a very small, as you can see, it's a very small space, but we had yoga classes here, we had various different paint and sip evenings, we had sound baths. So we got that sense of community from the very get-go, and now it's become more than that. But same in Ennis, with the outlet there. Things have changed over time, but again, as I said, the ethos has remained the same.
Yeah, and I guess, it started, as you said, in the live event space. That was where we were, and that's where we lived until the pandemic. And then, the rug was definitely pulled from underneath us straight away in March of 2020, because when you're in live events and you can no longer meet with people face to face, it was a really difficult and challenging time as a small business. So we had to reinvent the wheel immediately. It was kind of sink or swim, but we swam and we did that every single week. It was exhausting because every week we were coming up with new ideas. We shifted the entire business online. We had to. And there was a lot going on for us personally. We were both building at the time, and we had small families, and that kind of really threw us into the deep end of the business world, and neither of us came from a business background. So that was a challenge in itself, but maybe a blessing because we were naive and we kind of just went for it. But we started to evolve the business, and the product line kind of came about, and then the pop-up started. Arnott's had got in touch, and they were kind of the first taste of retail. They were very interested in our product line, and we had been stocked with the Kilkenny shop nationwide just before COVID kicked off. But it was very new, and we were very green. We're very honest about that. And when Arnott's contacted us, it was lovely. It was nice to be seen and to be thought of, to be on that stage. And then the taste for retail was kind of there then, and then the other pop-ups came about. But after a couple of years of pop-ups and no road long enough, the road kind of led home after that, because we wanted to put down roots and we wanted to have somewhere to call home, and that's how 71 O'Connell Street came to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I suppose a common thread the two of you would have had, business or otherwise, and the common thread through BEO, and the one thing I think of when I think of BEO is I think of there's flair and there's creativity in it. Like we were just saying before we came on 2 minutes ago, that when you walk in here, from like the features like the tile underneath the counters, there's a creative flair through everything you do. And between here and O'Connell Street and Ennis, you would know you're in a BEO outlet, and it's totally distinguishable from other maybe chain products or whatever. I think that's a big part which you did the creative side. Were you very much on the one hymn sheet from word go with the whole creativity? Is that a difficult thing as a partnership? Because creativity is very it's subjective, it's
And
personal.
it can be personal, yeah, and it's unique. I think we're both creative people.
Yeah, that's not an area. I think when it comes to, if you look at what our strengths might be, I think that's something that we enjoy. We both enjoy it, and that doesn't feel like the I guess the work side of the business. That feels like the part that we immerse and probably sometimes bury our head in and spend too much time because we just enjoy that side of it so much.
And we're both passionate, and that's the labour of love for us, you know, being creative and coming up with something new. But we definitely are on the same page. You know, I suppose over the years we've kind of, it's funny, but we think the same and we do the same things in terms of how we market the business, and you know, our standards are very much the same, which is a good thing. Yeah.
I wonder, has that enhanced maybe the more time we've spent together, and I don't know, but it has always felt like the creative side of it has always felt like the fun part, and then the other side, I mean the business plan.
We're not good at
the business plan. We laugh about that.
There was no business plan. I remember being asked when we were early on, you know, what the business plan was. I said our WhatsApp conversation is the business plan. There was no real plan or strategy. It was very organic, and you know, we're very honest about that. I think it's important to be transparent. Like, we weren't business heads. We didn't come from business backgrounds, and we just threw ourselves into it.
We had the luxury, I suppose, of having other careers at the time, actually. You know, initially, the financial draw wasn't there. It was more actually what we got on an emotional, on a
passion project business.
It was, and it was the feedback with the events specifically at the start. There was a gap there, and we could see that women wanted what BEO was prepared to offer them, you know, and particularly I think in rural Ireland, you know, that coming together, that sharing of experience, that hearing from wellness advocates and ambassadors at a time when probably the wellness movement hadn't really gone beyond the pale. You know, you're talking about 8 years ago, maybe 9 years ago, before we officially formed a company. So there was definitely a gap there, and we kind of looked at one another and said, you know, I think we might be onto something here. But it was the feedback after those events that, you know,
we used
hearing
to send
from
out,
women.
and we still do actually to this day. We send out a survey after every single event, and up until even last week I sent it out, and we had a retreat. But it's important actually to reflect after every event you do, and 8 years on we still do it, and I live for the feedback. I love it. And you know, one question we always ask, could you describe today in 3 words? And the words that we get back, they're so lovely, and they bring us so much joy. And it's so nice to know that you made a difference in somebody's, you know, first of all, we're grateful that they chose their day, they chose to spend their day with us. But to know that they left invigorated, they left feeling empowered, they felt seen, they you know, they asked themselves really difficult questions on the day, and that's what BEO is all about. It always has been. So, yeah.
And on the survey and on the words and what people feel when they feel BEO, because I feel very much it's a brand that it's all about feeling.
Yeah.
But people go for wellness if we just stick on the events for a minute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But is there more to it than the wellness? Is it a sense of community, a sisterhood? That's what I feel from my outside observation of it.
I suppose when you're going to an event, a BEO event, you're carving out that time for yourself. Mm-hmm. Some people choose to do it solo. They might come on their own. And some people will come with the girls, they'll come with their sisters, their mom. You know, our demographic can range anything from maybe 22, 23, up until 60s, even 70s. And it's so lovely to see people from all walks of life and from all ages still enjoying the day. You know, they take nuggets from the day, and they really, it is about community. I suppose when the pandemic hit, you know, we saw that it actually just didn't work to do like online events.
Yeah, we tried, and actually it helped us to build an organic online following, and that we could then, I suppose, pivot from with product. And but it nothing beats the shared experience. Nothing beats a room full of strangers leaving feeling connected, you know, and strangers hugging. You know, we used to have strangers put up their hand and share the most intimate of details in a room full, like, of, you know, there could be up to 400 people, and it was, you know, that's at times like really triggering, really emotional. But they felt safe.
It was rewarding though, and it was a safe space, and we always wanted to create that safe space for our guests.
On that, is there kind of a pressure at the same time nowadays in the whole world of brand building? A lot of people build a brand based on personalities, and on, like, it's a very personal brand. I think BEO is a personal brand. yourselves, even you get up on stage. Is it a bit of an issue as you scale? So if you're scaling a business, and as you're in 2 outlets now, you're 2 of your own outlets, like, do people still expect you to be there and to see you and to meet both of you when you go in the door? I suppose, do you have to, we were talking before we came on about culture, do you have to develop a culture where the staff that you have on are going to represent you in the way that you'd like to treat customers, and I suppose the overall ethos of customer service, because you do food offerings and drink offerings also.
Yeah, we started, I mean, it was a 2-woman band for a long time, and then with the opening of the Well, I suppose overnight, we expanded very quickly, and it was almost a baptism of fire for us. We had to learn to develop that culture very quickly, handbooks, BEO commandments.
Yeah, and we dropped balls along the way, don't get me wrong. We did make mistakes, but you keep learning from them. And we do have a great team. We're very proud of our team in Ennis and here in Lahinch now as well. And we have 30 people now on the payroll, which is a lot.
A lot.
That comes with a lot of responsibility, and I suppose everyone's job is really important to them and to their families, and it's rewarding to know that we have created that employment in the locality, but it does come with pressures. But I'm very confident, and as are you, I think, in saying that we have a really, really great team, and we'd be nowhere without them, and they do represent us very well, and we have great managers and great baristas. Everyone works really hard. It's a really busy spot in Ennis particularly, and they're always exhausted by the end of the day.
Yeah. But they are ambassadors for the
brand,
they are, for sure.
And we hear them chatting to customers. We get feedback, and people say the loveliest things, and it's so nice to hear that when you're not there, because we can't be there all the time.
No.
We each have 3 small children, so we're busy mums juggling a lot, and I suppose you have to manage your own expectations too. Like, we can't be there 7 days a week, but we try to be there as often as we can be.
And we know what we are, I suppose, and again it goes back to what is the ethos of BEO, and it's about creating that space where people feel heard, seen, and I think we always wanted the Well to be that, we created the studio space at the back. Again, it was for those community shared events, and we've had that as part of the schedule of events over the past year, and here too is the plan. But I think it's about ensuring that we know what we are, we know what we're not, and we're not a Michelin star restaurant, and we're not, there's lots of things that we are not. But I think what's very important to us is that everyone that comes through the door feels like they're welcome, and feels like they're part of
and we recently had actually done out our 10 commandments, because we kind of, it was on the long finger, but we're a year open in the Well, and we wanted to just to be very clear on our expectations, and the first commandment is a warm welcome, and just to smile, because that warm welcome is so important when you go anywhere. If you go to the till and the person doesn't smile at you, or you don't feel seen, or you just feel a little bit invisible, you get such a bad feeling. And as you mentioned earlier, BEO is about how you feel, and we just want everyone that walks through our doors to feel like, oh, I got such a warm welcome there, I'm definitely going to go back, and it's a lovely place to go on your own or with friends. It's a safe space, like our events, that it is also a safe space. So yeah. Well,
it's a small thing too, Sharon, because I was in BEO in the Well in Ennis there lately, and I got my coffee, and it was to-go coffee, and there was a young guy working there, and he was leaning over across me, and I said, what's he doing? He was getting the lid for the coffee for me from the shelf at the side. And it's the smallest thing, it leaves you with a good feeling when you're leaving the place. You feel like you're welcome there.
Absolutely.
And it's those small little interactions that it creates goodwill with the community, creates goodwill with your brand, and it's just safeguarding those is huge. Point you made there a while ago about Arnott's was, and it might be something for the future, I don't know, do you ever think of going on the road having a concession in the likes of Arnott's, like having your own counter, having your own area, and it being I suppose with an eye on the entrepreneurial side of it being a vehicle to scale long term, whether that's in your plans or not, I don't know.
We don't
never say never.
Very kind, I saw the expression there.
No, we don't feel finished, but at the same time, it's busy at the minute. We're 2 mothers.
I think balance has been something that we've both struggled a little bit with in the last couple of years with motherhood and working full time and owning your own business, there's a lot of weight sometimes, and things can feel heavy. So I think at some point you have to rein it in, and we have a lot going on at the moment. We're very happy to have opened the doors in Lahinch just last week. It's a really exciting time, and I think if we could keep doing what we're doing for now, you know, I suppose sometimes you have to just be happy with where you are and not always think the grass is greener.
That's not to say that there isn't ambition there. There is, of course, and we see the potential in BEO. And you know, it was very much kind of a national brand before we established the bricks and mortar. There was no road long enough, as you said. We were always on the go, and happy to collaborate with brands nationally. Have we taken our foot off the pedal with that a little bit and tried to keep things a little bit more manageable and close to home? Probably in the last while, just because it's family life and it's that juggle, and we just feel like there's a lot of plates spinning at the minute, you know.
Well, they say the grass is green where you water it, and I feel like we're watering our grass at the moment, and we're trying to just make that a success. So if we could just get that right, and who knows what might happen in the future.
Yeah, oh my God, you have a strong base as it is. Yeah, it's just, I suppose, from the point of view of motherhood, and I won't say it's a unique challenge, maybe it's a unique challenge that women face in enterprise, that you're coming into maybe your peak entrepreneurial season in your life, you're young women still, and you're still driving, but you're also at the stage where you're having kids, you're trying to rear a family, you're trying to instill the values, you could be instilling values into a brand and miss out on that whole, most important of all, the motherhood side of it. Is it a conflict? Like, you said something about balance there a while ago. I don't know, like, is balance even possible in the position you're in? Like, is integration maybe a more achievable goal? Like, you're in it at the moment and there's so much movement, but you're taking opportunities as they come along too.
Yeah. No, we're definitely in the thick of it, and the juggle.
These are the questions that keep us awake at night, Joe, for God's sake.
The juggle is real. The juggle is real. I mean, any woman who works or doesn't work, I mean, the juggle is real if you're a full-time mom. It's tough going when you have small children. Every day brings new challenges, and you know, you're trying to collect them from school, or you're trying to get them out the door in the morning, you're trying to get lunches made, homework, activities, and as the older they get, the busier it gets, I find. Yeah. And
at the same time, you could be getting calls about something's not working, the freezer has on the blink with the machines, and there's a queue out the door, the machine won't turn on, and there's a leak, and can you get a number for the plumber, where is he?
You know,
there's all
of the above. But I think our children, you know, they're similar ages, so they get on great actually, but they're very involved in the business. They're very aware. They're very aware. They're very proud of both of us. You know, my own little girl tells me, like, I'm so proud of you, mommy, and like, that's just so lovely. And she sees that you have to graft, like, nothing is handed to you. And it's important, I think, for the kids to know that, you know, you have to work hard in life. And I think once they're involved and they come up to Lahinch and they come into the well and they come to BEO and they're very included. But at the same time, it's difficult. You know,
they're big questions. They are, and I mean, there's no right or wrong answer, I suppose. And
mom guilt. Yeah, we have it every single day. You know,
that thing of, you know, can women have it all? I think they can. Can they have it all at the one time? Probably not. No. You know, and something gives.
Something gives, and it is really, really hard to try and do it all. You know, we're not perfect, and we drop balls. Like, people ask us all the time, how do you do it all? And I always say, I don't. I absolutely don't. Come to my house and you'll see that. You know, I'm not good at housework, and cooking is not like my forte. We don't do it all. Nobody does. Yeah. And if anybody thinks that that's how it appears, you know, that's a stark cry from the reality. I don't think any woman, especially in business, does it all. But they just work hard, and they do their best and show up every single day.
And there's a mutual understanding, you know. I suppose, like, you know, to go back to maybe the partnership that we spoke about before the pod, I suppose that is something that has really worked for us, that we have that mutual understanding of what's involved, what it takes, and what's going on behind the scenes, you know.
And there was always, I guess, parallels with both of us, you know, as we both had our families around the same time. So we get it, you know. There might be a day that we might have a meeting, and Aoibhín might text me and say, look, X, Y, or Z has happened. I'm like, it's grand, I'll go, you stay at home, and vice versa. You know, I remember one day I rang you that the chicken pox had come to our home, and she was like, it's fine, you just stay at home and you just mind the kids. And you know, you have to pick up the pieces for each other when that happens. No questions asked, because family obviously comes first. But it's lovely to have somebody to share it with, because I can't imagine doing it on my own.
It's a lonely journey.
Yeah, it would be very lonely.
Yeah. I don't know how people do it. Yeah.
And is there a weakness, like, in a partnership? Like, I'm in a partnership with my brother with the eggs, and like, I can see that we're quite different, so there is some strengths in that, and you can almost have, I suppose, a good cop, bad cop sort of a scenario at times. Both of us change that role at different times.
Yeah.
But do you think that what is the main thing that a good partnership needs to work? I would have thought that it was little differences or little idiosyncrasies that the one has that the other hasn't.
You would think maybe you beg to differ, but I think we're very similar.
Yeah.
I think that's what works.
I think we're both very impulsive.
Yeah.
And you know, I know some people would probably overanalyze a business decision, or should we do X, Y, or Z? Should we do it? And one person might be more cautious. Neither of us are cautious.
No.
We both just go straight into it.
You build the plane as you're going off the
you
edge.
figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, and at the end of the day, like, I mean, cash flow, HR, all of that, they're the day-to-day challenges. But I think we're both very level-headed in that, you know, we've overcome so many obstacles in the 8 years.
We've learned not to sweat.
We don't sweat
stuff.
the small stuff. Yeah, I was just going to say the same.
It's like calluses. You develop. It's almost like going to the gym. You train yourself for it, and you develop calluses in your hand, and you're able for the storm when it comes.
Yeah. Now, look, don't get me wrong. There are times, especially, you know, before we opened the well and before we opened the Hint, both of us would have had individual breakdowns, and it's up to the other person then to kind of pick up the pieces and say, look, pull yourself together.
And that generally happens.
And that does happen. It happened with you before the well. It happened with me before here.
Yeah.
It's just, it felt really overwhelming, and there was a lot going on, and I was like, oh my God, how are we going to get through the next couple of weeks? There's just so much to do.
Yeah.
And then you know, you always say, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And that's such a lovely expression, because it kind of gets you through those day-to-day problems.
Yeah.
Like we're both creative. We both love to, you know, all of our social, our graphics. We both do all of that ourselves. Our copy. I suppose the words may become better to me.
Yeah.
I'm
she's
kind
a
of more.
scribe.
I'm the more word person.
I'm very visual then.
Yeah, where she's more visual, and she's better at the, you know, she's very. Her standards now for aesthetics are quite high. And you really enjoy that. I enjoy it as well, but sometimes I just leave her to it, because I know that's where she really thrives. Definitely the words, I guess, would be me. And then things like VAT returns, I don't enjoy them, but one of us has to do it. There's different jobs. We've both kind of taken on different things, and some things, you know, you just leave it, like I'll do the website part, or you might do different things. You know, we just, I don't know, we've just kind of got into a groove. We know who's doing what.
We are still, like, we have the same email address. Because we're afraid to miss something, you know, which probably is not ideal.
Yeah, I don't know, is that a good thing or a bad thing? But everything comes into the one email.
And both eyes are on everything.
So it's a hello at BEO. It's not Aoibhín at BEO, it's Sharon at BEO, it's hello at BEO. And we see everything. But
we're afraid to change that.
Yeah.
But it's working so far.
Yeah.
But on your skill sets, someone who's thinking of getting into business or starting some sort of an enterprise, is it more important to work on your strengths, or let's say you don't like the VAT returns, whatever? Nobody likes that.
No.
Is it like, my policy would always be magnify your strengths. You're never going to get much better at your weaknesses, because you get to a certain stage, out of childhood, you don't really change an awful lot. But you can leverage what you're good at.
Yeah.
So, like, you obviously have your own skill sets.
And there was a time when we thought we had to learn new things. And what you just said is really interesting. You know, we would have had different mentors over the years with the local enterprise office, and different people advising us. And one thing we would have said to one of the mentors that we worked with in the Leo, you know, we have to learn how to do this, and we have to learn how to do that. And she said, no, you don't. You don't have time to start learning. Pay somebody to do that for you, and you spend your time doing what you're good at.
Yeah.
And that's really important if somebody was starting out in business. As you just said,
100%.
stick to what you know.
Yeah.
Because there is only so much time in the day, and if you need to, hire somebody in to do one particular task that you're not good at, that's fine. If you wanted to start a business, there's never a right time.
No.
I think the first thing is you have to love it,
Yeah.
and
there has to be passion there.
I think so. Yeah. The minute that goes, I don't know, you're at nothing. I think like we just get the smallest things. We see a new collection coming in, or I don't know, delivery, or you just get such a buzz,
joy,
or even
buzz.
just ticket sales, and the buzz of that, like the people want to do something that you from concept to design, and people just buy into it, and it's like that is just such a kick,
But like when a new collection comes in, or we'll say a new style or whatever, you're very much trendsetters. You are, we'll say with the clothing side of it, and that people do follow, especially on your socials, Aoibhín, your fashion trends, all that. Is there a lot of stress and pressure with that?
No.
Is there not? It's natural to.
And I know for some people it is, but it's a pressure point for people. It never has been with me. I don't overthink it. And again, we were chatting about perfectionism actually can be really crippling. I don't. That's just the enjoyment for me. It's the creative side of it. It's the storytelling side of it. There's books about the art of influence. I don't know. I think you either have it or you don't.
Yeah.
Now, and I don't think I do, by the way. I think whatever line of work I was in before, it probably helped me to develop a thick skin. You get critics and you get reviews after, or you don't get an audition that you put your life and soul into, and you have to pick yourself up and dust yourself off, and you develop a thick skin, and then there's you live by the sword, you die by the sword. You're going to get negativity. And that's just part of it, and you're going to get people sending you messages, DMs, and they're cutthroat. Have I lost sleep over that ever? Not really, no.
You do get better with age and with experience. I would have found that side of it very difficult when I started in business. And you were always there to kind of advise me, and you just have to learn not to care. If somebody says something negative, and people have sent DMs to BEO, they've sent them to me, kind of saying really negative, and it does hurt. Like, we're all only human, but at this stage, I don't care anymore, because I'm doing what I love, and we both are. And I think when you have joy in your career, you don't really feel like you're ever working. We love what we do. When I was teaching prior to this. I used to get that Sunday night fear, as do a lot of teachers, every Sunday, like the dread of a whole week ahead. And once I kind of took my career break and was, well established with the well, and a good friend of mine at school messaged me, and she said, "Do you still?" Because she knew, like, we'd be sending each other texts on a Sunday night with emojis of "get the Sunday night fear." And I said, "I absolutely don't." And she was like, "What?" I said, I don't. I said, I'm kind of gunning for the week now. I look forward to the week, because every week brings something new.
You joke about that, but that is fundamental.
Yeah.
Too many people, and I'm not saying teachers, are in jobs or careers that give them that knot.
Yeah.
That breeds.
They reckon 70%.
It's scary, isn't
it?
it?
It is scary.
It's
So Sharon, I suppose you were teaching. Would you trade what you're doing now to go back teaching?
So I was a primary school teacher for 15 years, and I feel very fortunate to have had a wonderful experience. I was in the same school for that length of time and worked with some amazing colleagues and taught fabulous children, and I really did love it at the beginning. I'm going to be really honest here. I think for the last 5 years of my time there, BEO had kicked off, so that was my little side hustle. But at some point along the way, the side hustle started to feel a little bit more like the real deal and the real thing, and that's what gave me more joy. And I was definitely torn, and I think that was probably a big turning point for me when I decided I'm just going to go for it now. I'm going to take a career break and just give BEO 100% of my time, because it was now or never, and it's scary to leave pensionable job and the security and all of that. But there's another side to that, like to think that you'd stay in the same job forever just to feel more secure. So I'm very happy with what I have now. I have a lot of flexibility, and my children are small. I can collect them from school, I can bring them to their activities, I can do all of that with them and spend a lot more time with them. So I wouldn't go back to where I was.
You've a kind of integration with your family life.
Yeah.
By being self-employed to a certain extent, your own boss.
It does give you that lovely flexibility. But I did learn a lot from teaching, and it gave me a great kind of stepping stone into the business world. I know some people might think education and business are not the same, but you do learn a lot about dealing with the public and your organisational skills, like just to be more efficient with your time and all of that. But yeah, I learned so much from the time I had there, but I'm definitely very happy with where I am now. So I wouldn't be running back to the classroom anytime soon, no.
Because it's a really hard jump to make, like leaving a pensionable permanent job.
Mm-hmm.
It has so many benefits.
Yeah.
And you are going into the unknown. I know you had a fair idea where it was going. It was going to be successful, but
well, we didn't know that,
No.
and we still don't know what's ahead. No.
But nobody does to a certain extent.
Yeah.
I suppose there's a good few markers of success there already along your milestones.
Yeah.
Definitely not risk averse, I suppose.
Yeah.
You were prepared to take that leap of faith because something about it felt good.
Yeah.
You know.
It felt like this is what I want to do, and as I said already, like I definitely kind of leap into things. I don't overthink them for too long.
Yeah.
I just decided, and that was that. And once I had made my decision, I had to live with it and own it and not look back. And I was very aware, like I'm responsible for my job and for what I want in life, and you have to just do what makes you happy. And yeah, I'm very happy to be self-employed, but it is really scary. It was like a big jump to make, and on my last day at school I remember Aoibhín rang me and she kept me going the whole way to Limerick, and we were chatting in the car, and I was really upset, I was very emotional that day, but we kind of threw ourselves into it. And
I felt it too, because I was like, oh Jesus,
It has to work out.
yeah, there was probably a little bit of pressure on you as well. It's like she's after throwing in the towel here.
But wasn't it a statement really in your own self-determination that the Vikings used to burn the boats when they used to invade a country?
Okay.
You really burnt the boats by leaving the teaching profession. Like.
Yeah, and I mean, look, my family, my father was like, "Are you mad?" It's a different generation, and now they think it's great. It was the best thing you ever did.
even your best friends.
Yeah.
Have you really thought this through? Like,
yeah, and you know the numbers. And do you have a plan? I'm like, no, I have a WhatsApp. Yeah, just I guess in terms of starting a business and doing something like that and pivoting, you just have to trust your gut, and I did, and I went with it.
Yeah.
So no regrets. Yeah.
Aoibhín, Dublin and Clare, the whole startup culture. I know you said before that when you moved down to Clare, that you knew it was the right move when you go down the M7 and your shoulders would drop.
Yeah.
And as you call it the West, I wouldn't really call Clare the West. I thought, yes, you always come the West, so it's just a little thing. But an aside. But would this be possible in Dublin? Like, both of you have said before, you're very much inspired by the landscape of Clare, you know, the Cliffs of Moher, even the Hinch, and like your roots in Doolin and North Clare.
Yeah.
Would it have been possible in Dublin to start something like this? But it has a very almost Californian kind of a feel to it. It's very, even here it's very oceanic, and it's feel like, and even in Ennis it feels that way. It's fresh. It doesn't feel like something you find in the country in
I don't think it would
Dublin.
have, to be honest.
Yeah.
What I find really refreshing is people's openness to collaborate. I don't know how to make a burn beeswax lip balm, and thankfully we found someone locally, a local herbalist who wanted to work with us, private label, and so one of our first products was born. And I don't think if people in Dublin, they're very much in their own lane, and they tend not to look left or right at that. Now that's it's a very broad statement, but I think here people come together. There's a collaboration. There's creativity, and there's inspiration all around us. I'm looking there at the shelf, and just to team up with some of the people that we have, the local businesses, the local designers and creatives, Potador there, his ceramics, and we've Danielle Wallace, inspired by the Wild Atlantic Way, and Wildwood, all of these brands that we love shining a light on, and providing a platform for, and that's kind of what initially actually what we now we've
Evolved.
evolved a little bit, but I think, you know, working with other Irish designers and other creatives locally has been what really kind of made this journey for us really fulfilling, you know.
Yeah, and it's, I suppose maybe you had a better chance of creating a tribe.
Yeah.
I feel that there is a tribe feel to your following. Like, you definitely have, you have a strong loyal customer base, and when you start in maybe a more regional town like Ennis, it's a large town, you can develop that because you're actually connected with the people that come in the doors.
Yeah, it's a
And-
real sense of community. Yeah, and
Yeah.
again, it goes back to that, you know, to that sense of community and people behind the brand as well. You know, it's not faceless. You know.
Well, you can meet any day of the week. We can meet one of you pouring a coffee or doing something inside in the shops. Maybe less and less in the future, but currently you're very involved.
Going for that balcony.
Yeah, I go to the balcony, take off the dancing shoes for once and for all.
The dance floor, absolutely. Yeah.
The big thing from an outsider looking in terms of a turning point, I think, from my view of your story, is when you took on the well and you set up the well in Ennis. I think it was very much, we're talking about a statement with you leaving the teaching profession and all, but the wellness events, obviously a huge undertaking, but could you argue that they could be modular? That if you wanted to park them in the morning, you could.
Yeah.
There was a lot of moving parts, but it could be parked.
Yeah.
But when you take on bricks and mortar at such a scale that you did, and such a detail that you did, you're in.
No, I think for both of us that was probably, but that was a very special project and we learned so much from it. We were involved, I guess, with the owner and the builders from the very early stages, so we really got to put our own stamp on it.
The owner, he wasn't there. He was, of course, very connected to it and very involved. But I suppose we project managed a lot of it because we were on site most days.
And it all happened organically, with 71 O'Connell Street. It was meant to be a little bit of a smaller project. We were going to just take the retail space
because that was what we knew,
and that we really wanted to put down roots, and you know, it was definitely Ennis where we wanted to do that because that's where we live and we wanted it to be close to home. O'Connell Street was definitely where we wanted to be as well, so it's just at the top of O'Connell Street. And when we saw that there was activity, it had been derelict for years. We reached out to a few people to kind of figure out who has bought this building, how do we make contact. So we reached out to the Chamber of Commerce. Margaret was so helpful there, and she actually knew the owners, John and Kay. They're from Florida, and they had bought the building at auction, and they were renovating it, but it was very early on, so we really got in just in time, I think. And he didn't come back to us, actually. He kind of left us hanging.
Hard to get.
Yeah, for about 6 months, and there was a little bit of stalking involved. We had to really over and back, and you know, we were over and back with Margaret, and lots of emails and messages and phone calls, and you know, he didn't seem interested, but we weren't letting it go. We were adamant.
Talking about creativity, I mean, we had mood boards, we had
everything.
presentations, we really sold ourselves.
But it was very much the retail space, and then there was talks of a coffee shop, and he kind of said there was another party interested, and that didn't really transpire. So he came to us and said, okay, why don't you just take the whole building, the ground floor, you can just keep it all open plan, and you put in a coffee shop. And that was like, what? You know,
obviously, you know, my husband is involved, but that for me was just alien, total for both of us.
Yeah.
We were like, how, what,
like we knew nothing about coffee shops,
about food and beverage. I mean, and never planned to know anything about food. It just wasn't on our radar at all.
It was kind of wild, actually, just that we kind of threw ourselves into it so quickly. We didn't really do the market research and the focus groups that people talk about.
You talk about the breakdown. I mean, that's when I was like, what have we done? I mean,
I know it was too late at that stage.
We were in too deep.
We were in too deep, and there was definitely one day there was a bit of a breakdown.
I think it was around the time when the dishwasher arrived. I was like, I don't even know how to turn this bloody thing on.
But look, we had the right people to advise us. Aoibhín mentioned John. You know, he's been a great mentor to us over the years. And he's in this world, and he was like, look, just go for it and just do it, and you will do it, and you'll do it well. So we did. We're like, okay, we can do this. And we worked with really great people and loads of local tradesmen, and you know, we're really blessed. It was such a lovely experience from start to finish, but it was definitely the biggest project we have taken on. And then when we renovated Lahinch a year later, it didn't feel as scary. No.
We come back here in 10, 15 years' time. What impact, I won't say legacy, because you're young women, you'll be young women at that stage. What impact or legacy will you have hoped to have made, I think, overall on the retail / food service offering and the BEO impact overall? I know it's back to a question about the long-term picture for BEO. Because I think you're at a crucial point now in your business.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of growth, and I think there's a very high ceiling on this business myself, just looking in from outside. So what will the legacy be of BEO? And I don't mean the legacy as an eternal thing, I mean as long term. There's another generation coming along in years to come. I'm looking at it long term.
Yeah. I suppose it's neither retail nor hospitality exclusively.
Yeah.
It's how you marry both, and we would like to think of Lahinch especially as a concept store and that lifestyle feel, that there's a little bit of everything, but at the heart of it is experience. So that when you come into the place, that you just feel immediately that, you know, this is a nice place to be. There's a buzz, there's a little bit of everything. You've got your local makers and your lovely food offerings, and you have your fashion, your clothes, your accessories, your Irish designers. You have people a little bit further afield, but then you still have the hospitality, the welcome, the warm welcome. That it's kind of all entwined and all married together, but that it's all just an experience. So I think if retail kind of headed in that direction, that you're not just going in to buy a new outfit, you're going to grab a coffee, you're going to have a chat. You know, you might pick up a mug, you might pick up a book. You just enjoy the experience. You don't get that from online shopping or, you know, going to a bigger chain. So yeah.
I suppose that now at this point, I have a whole new appreciation for business and the longevity of people's business. You know, I see other businesses on the street, on O'Connell Street, or even here, you know, and say, wow, like their ability to sustain. And that's something that probably keeps me awake at night. Where will we still be here? Will we be here in 5 years' time? Will we be here in 10 years' time? Is it something that our kids could potentially, you know, take on?
Yeah.
Who knows? I suppose we have been good at diversifying and pivoting. And I suppose that umbrella of BEO has huge potential because it's a concept. That sounds very...
It's broad, which is positive.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so, because the potential is there. And even with the space in Ennis, we thought, you know, how will this work? Do we keep this, as if there's a room at the back, do we keep this completely empty? Do we keep it a shell? Does that seem like a huge waste of space? But actually, it's been a Christmas pop-up, and it's provided a platform for baby massage on a Tuesday and salsa dancing.
Yeah, you know, a little bit of everything.
And I think that's the beauty of it, you know, that it can be whatever we want it to be, you know. And I hope that the business can become whatever we want it to become.
Yeah, it's very much a living brand.
Yeah.
So, Aoibhín, Sharon, I think we're very lucky in Clare to have you as two entrepreneurs. You're very valued, and if we had more like you across rural Ireland, we might be in a better place. And I think that people need to support brands like yours, and I wish you the very best luck into the future.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.